Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 28 of Fundraising BIDness Talk. I'm Patrick Cyber. I'm lead auctioneer for G Events based in Beaverton, Oregon. And each week we gather at noon to chat about current events, best practices, what's happening in the fundraising auction BIDness. Right. So happy you could join us today. Want to invite you, our viewers, to go ahead and say hi. Type in that chat box and tell us hello and where you're tuning in from today. We'd love to say hello back. And also, as we go through the program today, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to type those questions right into the comments. I'll be able to see them, and we'll be happy to answer your questions as we go. So our topic today is pretty straightforward. The new variant of COVID-19. Now what? just when we thought we were going to be able to start getting together again and planning our new fundraising events to be in gathering or hybrid format, now we've got the Delta variant. And so I want to spend a few moments today just chatting about kind of a strategy that I share with my clients that I think is very solid and something that will minimize your risk and maximize your opportunity, regardless of the current environment with our health concerns surrounding COVID. So, with that being said, let's dive in. And the first question that I ask our clients and nonprofit organizations is, do you need to raise money? And I have to tell you, I have not had one of our nonprofit clients yet say, no, Patrick, we really don't need to raise money. We're totally fine. And so if you need to raise money in this new environment of the instability of what's going to happen, whether we're going to be able to gather, whether there's mask, whether there's no mask, whether whatever it is, right? And you still need to raise money, then tonight's the night, or today's the day to talk about what we would recommend you doing. So with that being said, let's dive right into it. And the concept is very, very simple in my mind, and it's very basic and very straightforward. And the concept is start with a virtual format, okay? And then we're going to add an audience, right? But at the very base of our planning, I'm going to highly encourage you to start with a virtual format. And here's the number one reason, is that virtual does not get canceled. I've been doing virtuals now for 16 months, I guess, 17 months. We did our first one March 11th of 2020. And I haven't had one of them get canceled. In fact, if anything, I had very little concern about what the current health environment was, because we're able to do them regardless. And I love them because there's no barrier to entry or to participate. Everybody, regardless of their opinions, feelings with respect to the pandemic, whether they're vaccinated, unvaccinated, everybody can attend, whether they want to get back together, whether they don't want to get back together. Everybody can attend a virtual format. And there's multiple formats within the virtual environment, which gives us quite a bit of flexibility, folks. I mean, we can go to a studio. I have my favorites at the AV department, the folks over there, Todd Campbell and the team, Andy and John, and everybody does such a Sean. And Ryan do a wonderful, wonderful job. They've created a magnificent studio, multiple studios, and they're just fantastic over at the AV department. But that has certain cost associated with it. I think it's an incredible investment, and I think it is the right solution for the majority of my clients, just because it's a turnkey solution. To be in a studio, you've got all the professionals and all the equipment right there, and it's cost effective because it's at their place. They're not bringing that equipment to you. The second choice would be on location. Do you want to do your virtual event at a, whether it's a venue for that you were going to have a gathering event, or whether it is a venue like your school or your church or your organization's office. You can have the event on location. Maybe it makes it easier for your guests and speakers and things of that nature versus having to go to somewhere they haven't been before. But when you take all that equipment on the road, recognize it is going to cost a little bit more. And then another format would be having multiple locations, right? I've done virtual events from sitting right here in my home studio in Beaverton with an MC, Peter Jacobson, being in his New York home in Rochester, New York, and having a producer that was somewhere else, right? Had an MC in Colorado, and I was here in the home studio, and our producer was in Southeast Portland. So you can definitely do a whole lot of exciting things with, obviously, multiple formats, and more importantly, flexible cost, right? I mean, you can have a professional AV provider, someone like the AV department, Henry V, Meyer Pro. There's all sorts of groups out there. I'm sure there's some in your home market. Make sure they have experience in live streaming and producing a live stream. It's one thing to go live. It is another thing to have your live stream produced. And, whether you're, and what do I mean by that? I'll touch on it for a second because I think it's important. I was visiting with one of my clients earlier this week, and they had somebody, an AV provider, who was going to be able to live stream. And so I said, well, that's fantastic. I'd love to chat with them and get a sense of what they're using so we know what assets to provide them with respect to videos and formats and different things. And we got to chatting with the provider, and basically he had a camera and was going to turn it on and live stream it to wherever we told him to live stream it, right? So if we sent it to our website, whether we sent it wherever we sent it, he was just going to point it wherever that was, and there was no graphics, there was no transitions, there was a lot of different things, right? Whereas when you work with someone who is in this live streaming industry and does it regularly, like the AV department or our good friends Anka Tree Fan at Tree Fan Events, these folks understand how to take that image and turning it into a professional show, right? So you can definitely do that with an AV provider who is well versed at streaming these events. And then you can also go very low cost and use a software like StreamYard, which we use for this program every week. It's fantastic. We've done quite a few shows on StreamYard because we're able to have folks in multiple locations. We're able to play videos. We're able to do all sorts of things that we would normally do. It's definitely not as polished as having a professional live streaming organization involve, someone like the AV department, using a software like vMix or OBS. But StreamYard is a phenomenal cost-effective solution to these events. And I think cost is a huge issue as we look at, what the future holds. And none of our crystal balls are very clear right now. So just sticking with our topic today, what do we do now in this new environment? Well, we're also sensitive to being able to gather, and we all want to gather, right? We're just not in a position to do it right now. But when we are able to, we plan on doing it. And what I say is we're going to add a studio audience as society allows. And what do I mean by that? Okay. Well, there's no one factor that will bring everyone back to the gathering event, right? I think that if tomorrow they said, hey, COVID's over, nobody has COVID, no, everything's done, I think there are going to be people who don't want to get dressed up and spend their entire Saturday night at a fundraising gala, whereas they might have pre-COVID. I think there are people who appreciate being able to go online and support their favorite nonprofits. I think that we have folks that are going to be in the audience that don't want to be in a room with 300 people at the same time, regardless whether it's COVID or anything else. They've just things have changed in our new environment, and so I don't think there's any one factor that'll bring everyone back to the gathering event, and I really don't think we'll ever get everyone back to that gathering event. So the step here is that we started with virtual, and now we're going to add an audience if society allows, and our audience allows, right? And I'm going to encourage you as your nonprofit organization or your organizing group for this event that you focus on your event goals. Okay. Your audience can add atmosphere and motivation. And so, absolutely, we love to have an audience. I think that the energy that comes from a gathering event where people are raising their paddles and hooting and holler and having a good time is incredibly valuable and definitely helps you increase the amount of money that you're going to raise in an event. So when we have the right audience, it's incredibly important and does incredible great things. At the same time, I'm going to encourage you to prioritize that guest list. And the way I'm going to prioritize it is I want people in the room that are motivating to others to support our cause. What I mean by that is that we know in the auction business that more people does not necessarily mean more money to a gathering event. In other words, what I'm talking about is that we've seen it for many, many years where if you have a lot of folks that are there only for the party, or they are only there to be a part of the event and to fill seats, and they have no intention of raising their bid paddle, whether it was bidding for a live auction item or raising their paddle at the fund to need or the paddle raise or the special appeal. Those folks, if there's a high percentage of those folks, then it can take the enthusiasm out of a room, right? We've said for many years, I'd rather have a room with 50 folks that are all there to give money and support the organization. Because when those people start raising their paddle, everybody raises their paddle, as opposed to having that room with those same 50 people plus another 150 people that aren't going to raise their paddle. And because when as an auctioneer, I can see it from the stage, when we ask for a donation, where we're asking for bids on a live auction item, if I see that there are plenty of people who are just sitting on their bid paddle, it will keep some of our traditional paddle raisers. It becomes okay to not raise their paddle. And so I'm going to always encourage you, especially in this new environment, we have an incredible opportunity to really focus in on those folks who motivate others to support. And now they're going to get the chance to offer them to motivate those folks through the virtual event also, right? So it's a home run, fantastic stuff. And what I would encourage you to do is when you identify that group of folks, that you invite them to basically a VIP experience here. This is not the same gala banquet that they've been to in the past. And why is that important? Well, it's important for multiple reasons, but I want to talk about kind of a format with you for a second, because one of my concerns as we are navigating this environment of trying to, can we do a gathering event? Can't do a gathering event? We're real sensitive to the liability financially for the nonprofit, right? Because if you think you're going to host 300 people, that takes a certain size of a space, and you're going to feed it. If you're going to feed them all dinner, then that's a commitment to the caterer, a commitment to the venue. And we're looking to make sure that we don't get caught in a bad situation. And many of our, we've seen many nonprofits and many venues. I don't hold it against the venues or the caterers. I think it's, we're, as much as we're all trying to help each other, it's incredibly challenging when um, we get shut down for the pandemic, regardless of your opinions on the cause. When we get told that we can't conduct business, it's very challenging for everybody, and so um, we want to minimize our exposure on those situations. So I'm going to tell you, when we look at this and we talk about creating a VIP experience, picture an event with a social hour, okay? And when I say social hour, assuming that it's okay to bring a small group of people together, you invite your VIP guest to come to the event, gather, chat, socialize a little bit, right? Because that's what we've been missing in this new environment, is the opportunity to see others and chat and shake hands and things of that nature. So have a little social hour and then usher them into, quote, the studio where the live stream is going to happen. And in the studio, they sit down and they watch the show that is actually being live streamed to a wider audience of supporters. And the neat thing about that studio audience is that they all have their bid paddles. And if we've selected them right, they're going to be able to raise their paddles during the paddle raise or the special need, the fund special appeal, the fund to need. And we can also have them bidding on the live auction packages in simulcast with the folks that are not in the room with us, the folks that are participating online and watching the live stream. And then finish up your evening with a little celebration for those in attendance. Maybe it's a little dessert buffet, maybe it's a little after dinner cordial, something along those lines. But in this environment, I don't think that you have to provide people with a sit down plated meal. That everybody understands things are different, and you've got an opportunity, little appetizers, a few beverages, a couple of beverages on the front end. Bring them in, sit them down, watch the show. They participate, they support your organization, and then maybe a little thank you on the way out. A toast to the celebration of all the success that you've had that evening. Maybe it's a little dessert bar, whatever it is. Now, you totally could then, depending on the time of night, I would say you could turn around and take them out of the studio and set them down and serve them a nice meal. Really, the canvas is wide open and blank in this new environment, and I think it's exciting because people have an opportunity to recreate an experience that they haven't had before, and this intimate experience is really positive. I think for the organization, it gives the executive directors and the key folks in the nonprofit the opportunity to actually walk around, shake hands, spend some time with guests. You're not trying to manage a party with 300, 400 people. And I think that can be a real positive. So this is just a little short format that I would recommend, and a concept that I think you would be beneficial for you. It minimizes our costs. It's not a heavy expense. You control your expenses. On the food and beverage side, your venue is smaller because you have a select group, so that opens the door to all sorts of venues. I've seen folks do it at their headquarters. I've seen folks do it, and maybe at a winery that they would have never considered doing their former event for 400 or 500 people. Now they can go to a unique environment, create that VIP experience. So just a lot of opportunity there, and we go back to the original premise. We started with virtual. So if anything happens, we can always scratch the VIP experience, and we're prepared. We've got everything in place to do our virtual. And speaking about having everything in place, let's chat for a second about what that team looks like. And I'm going to encourage you to build your team for your event so that you are set up for success. And when you start with virtual, let's start with the right AV company, okay? And making sure that they're an organization that can fit your needs. Do they have a studio? If, in fact, you need to be in that studio environment. Do they have gear that is portable? Can they take that show and take it to your on-site location? Can they come to venue or your organization's office to do this live streamed event? Do they know what they're looking for when they bring it on site? From you got to have the right type of internet connections and things of that nature. So I'm going to encourage you, I'm not going to say start, but one of your first decisions is to find the right AV company that has an experience in producing events both in person and live streamed, and ask for some examples. That's one of the great things that we can do today with because of what we've been through in the last 16 months, is that now you can say, hey, do you have some examples of work that you've done? And folks can direct you to the recordings of their different streams. And with all these elements, I would say definitely take advantage of that. And it's a great learning opportunity, but it also illustrates what kind of capabilities that organization has. So identifying your AV company. Many of you maybe use an event planner. If you have the budget for that, or you're short of staff, right? I don't want to think it's a it's for many organizations, it's not a luxury, it's a requirement because they don't have enough staff to organize the event at the level that they want to organize it. And having a good event planner is incredibly powerful and useful. Um, Having the right people that understand what the goals are and can work with others, right? I think that I've learned that working with event planners and the team of the event planner, the AV company, and the auctioneer in this new virtual world is incredibly crucial to the success of the event. So making sure you have that event planner that's on your team. If it is something that you need for your event, definitely make sure that they have a history in doing these types of events. And then venues, right? We talk a little bit about venue. If you are going to have a studio audience, if you're going to have a gathering component to your event, identifying your venue and something unique, and set the size, right? That's the nice thing about what we're doing now in this new hybrid environment, is that we kind of control that, right? We can say, hey, we would like to have, based on our organization and looking at our history of how people have supported us in the past, we would like to have 50 individuals in the room, right? Now, 50 individuals, from an auctioneer standpoint, we look at that and say, well, are they all couples? Because if they are, that's 25 pocketbooks in the room, right? So whatever that magic number is for your group, finding the right venue, and understanding the contract with that venue. What are the clauses and commitments on behalf of your organization? Are they able to do the catering in-house? Traditionally, a venue that does in-house catering is going to be less expensive than having to have a venue that you have to bring in an outside caterer, and that outside caterer has to transport everything, not only from the food, but from the glasses and the plates and the tables and chairs and all those different things, right? So be creative when you're thinking about your venue. This new environment gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of opportunity to pick some unique venues. And quite honestly, the venue can now become a draw, right? As they become more unique, I think our guests are more excited about maybe not going back to the hotel ballroom with 700 people, right? It's got some real opportunity. And then, it's last on the list, but I'm going to encourage it to be near the top. Identify your professional benefit auctioneer. And the best way to do that is an auctioneer that has a BAS. A BAS is an accreditation that comes from the National Auctioneers Association. It is something that as auctioneers that we earn by attending and participating with continuing ed, that we participate in an education program that is directed and focused on being successful in the benefit auction world. And so check around in your local market and find out who has a BAS, because that really tells you that they are dedicated to their trade and they're dedicated to making your event be successful. And they'll also have, I hear folks talk occasionally today, as we've moved into this virtual world, because there's online bidding and there's this and there's that. I hear people question, do I need an auctioneer? And it's funny. I think the auctioneer has become, and granted, I am an auctioneer, but I think the auctioneers become more integral to the success of these events than ever, right? Because we bring the methodology that maybe did not exist before, and understanding. And when we talk about online bidding, remember that the auction industry has been doing online bidding for 25 years, and there's definitely methods and there's definitely best practices, and hiring the right benefit auctioneer can help you incorporate those into your event. So I'm going to encourage you to make sure you hire a professional benefit auctioneer. Obviously, we'd love it to be us. We would love to work with you and your team in making your event extremely successful. And you can reach out to us at any time at geventsllc.com. We actually even have an easy calendar application right on our homepage, and you can schedule an opportunity to visit with us at your convenience. And we'd love to hear about your event and what's going on and how we could potentially help you. And want to remind you always, Fundraising BIDness Talk is live Wednesdays at noon. And if you missed today's episode, it will be on all of our social media accounts: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. But we also have a Vimeo channel with all the episodes all in one place. This is episode 28. As we finish up tonight, I always want to remind you, it does not matter where you start the bidding. It's all about where you finish. And we certainly wish you all the best with your fundraising events. Until next Wednesday, we'll look forward to seeing you. Bid them up, bid them high, and bid often.